When Freddie Mercury died in 1991, he was worth £50 million, but that was just the beginning. His ex-girlfriend, Mary Austin, inherited 75% of everything. She never married him, yet she became richer than most rock stars. Then, in 2021, Queen sold their music catalog for over £1 billion. Mary's share exploded to £187 million overnight. But here's the shocking part. There's someone else who should have inherited millions, a secret daughter who got nothing. Today, we're exposing the fortune that divided a family. Freddie Mercury came into the world as Farrokh Bomi Bulsara on September 5, 1946, in Stone Town, Zanzibar, a busy port town filled with African, Arab, Indian, and British influences. His parents, Bomi and Jair, were Parsi Indians from Gujarat who moved to Zanzibar for work, and their home overlooked the sea. They lived comfortably with the help of domestic workers, including a nanny named Sabine, and they raised Farrokh in the Zoroastrian faith. So while he grew up surrounded by ancient rituals, he also heard church bells in the distance and watched ships from all over the world arrive at the harbor. That mix of cultures shaped him quietly from the start, planting the seeds for the dramatic and experimental style he later carried into Queen. Music found him early. At family gatherings, he tapped out piano sounds on tables even before he had a real instrument. His mother filled the house with Bollywood lullabies, and he soaked up every melody. By age 7, thanks to the clove trade boom that brought extra money to the Bulsara home in the 1950s, he received his first toy piano. It was a small thing, but he played it non-stop, making simple tunes inspired by the island around him. Swahili chants, church hymns, Bollywood songs, and the sounds of Zanzibar's streets mixed together in his mind. Those early melodies stayed with him for life. His schooling began in Zanzibar, then stretched across the ocean to India. At age 4, he entered the Zanzibar Missionary School, run by Anglican nuns. He was shy and often teased for his buck teeth, something that followed him long into adulthood. When he turned 8, his parents sent him to St. Peter's School in Panchgani, India. They hoped he would focus on academics, but instead he found music waiting for him there. He joined the school band, the Hectics, and began taking piano seriously. At the same time, he still practiced Zoroastrian rituals, creating a strange but powerful blend of influences. When Zanzibar won independence in 1963 and tensions rose, the Bulsara family had to leave the island for good. That escape ended his island childhood and pushed him toward the life that would make him famous. Life at St. Peter's was strict and lonely at first. 8-year-old Farrokh wrote letters home filled with sadness because he missed his family. But staying there brought new discoveries. The school choir introduced him to Western classical music and composers like Mendelssohn, and teachers noticed his wide vocal range even as a child. He studied piano hard enough to earn grade 4 in both theory and practical exams. Panchgani was far from Zanzibar, but the school gave him something he needed. It taught him how to use his voice. He tried sports, too. Even though he did not love cricket, at age 10 he shocked everyone by scoring a half-century in a school match. Table tennis was his real passion. He became school champion at 10 and won junior all-rounder awards at 12. He captained the team and used his small winnings to buy records by Cliff Richard and Elvis Presley. Those records pulled him deeper into rock and roll. His classmates remember a shy boy off stage who became someone else the moment music played. They say he always carried a record player, eager to share the songs he loved. When he was 12, something painful happened. During a school boxing match, he fell and worsened his already prominent buck teeth. The injury caused chronic pain, and he chewed aspirin daily to cope. It gave him a slight lisp that made him self-conscious. He tried speech therapy, but the lisp stayed with him. He was born with 4 extra incisors that crowded his mouth and caused the overbite. Doctors offered to fix it many times, but he believed his unique 4-octave vocal range came from that very structure. He refused treatment for years because he feared losing his voice. Only later, When he felt more confident, did he allow a dentist to correct it, giving him the smile fans would recognize instantly? Music pulled him forward. At 16 in 1962, he formed his first real band, the Hectics, with friends at St. Peter's. They played covers of Elvis Presley, Cliff Richard, and Little Richard. Farrokh wore flashy clothes he borrowed from older students and shocked everyone with his style. Offstage, he stayed quiet, but on stage he moved like a performer already sure of himself. Those early shows were small, yet they marked the moment he stepped onto the path that would lead him to rock superstardom. He also pushed back against certain parts of his upbringing. During visits to India, he secretly ate non-vegetarian food from street vendors, even though strict Zoroastrian rules required a vegetarian diet. He hid it from his parents. That secret rebellion created tension at home and taught him early how to live a double life. It also gave him a sense of independence that never left him. Everything changed in January 1964. The Zanzibar revolution erupted, and violence swept across the island. Up to 17,000 people were killed, mostly Arabs and Indians. The Bulsaras, being a minority, fled in the middle of the night. They boarded a British ship with only their suitcases. 17-year-old Farrokh watched the world he knew collapse behind him. Years later, he poured that feeling of sudden loss into songs like Killer Queen, where rich imagery hid a deeper memory of chaos and fear. That escape shaped him deeply. It pushed him toward the new life waiting in England. They settled in Feltham, Middlesex. Farrokh became Freddie so he could blend in. By the late 1960s, he worked odd jobs, including as a baggage handler at Heathrow for only £2.50 per week. Anti-Asian sentiment was rising after Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech in 1968, so Freddie often hid his background from classmates. Still, he created music quietly, writing melodies under his pillow at night. His mother later recalled that even during their hardest days, he never stopped composing. To move forward, he turned to art. In September 1964, he joined Isleworth Polytechnic to study art and design. His paintings were bold and inspired by Zanzibari landscapes. Some pieces won small prizes and caught local attention. But he often clashed with professors, especially when he created nude self-portraits that hinted at his bisexuality. It was taboo at the time and caused tension. Friends said his look changed during these years. He started wearing fashionable clothes and slowly shed the awkwardness of his past. Eventually, he dropped out, driven by frustration and the growing desire to pursue music full-time. Making friends through table tennis, he found other musicians at Isleworth Polytechnic. In 1967, he formed a band called Wreckage. They played gritty blues in pubs, and Freddie's screams shocked audiences. Those screams carried the anger and trauma he had held inside since the revolution. The band did not last long. Members drifted away by late 1969, but the experience taught Freddie how thrilling performance could be. It was a small lesson, but it helped build the foundation for Queen. Then came his first romantic scandal in 1968. Freddie was dating a girl named Rosemary Pearson, but one day he was caught kissing a male student in the art studio. Within hours, the story spread. Whispering and judgment followed him everywhere. To escape the attention, he transferred schools. Later, he hinted at this secretive chapter in a playful song called Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon. The light tone of the lyrics hid the truth of what he was living. That moment shaped how he handled identity, privacy, and performance for the rest of his life. Freddie Mercury stepped onto his first real stage in 1969 when he joined a small band called Ibex. They later tried the name Wreckage. He played in pubs across Yorkshire and Liverpool, and even in those smoky rooms, something about him pulled people in. His first show with Ibex was on August 23, 1969, at the Octagon Theatre in Bolton. He covered Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles, and in the middle of it all, he would suddenly slip into gold lame pants like it was the most natural thing in the world. Audiences were shocked, but they also could not look away. He moved with a kind of fearless joy. By October 31, 1969, at Ealing College, he was already unscrewing the microphone stand and using it like a partner. Wreckage never recorded a studio album, but live tapes from that time show his voice growing fast. Songs like Green and Cancer on My Mind gave a small taste of what he could become. When Wreckage fell apart, Freddie moved to London in 1970. He had almost nothing, but he carried his dream like a fire. He lived in squats around West Kensington, sharing tiny rooms with other young musicians who were also trying to survive. He lived on just £5 a week from designing posters. His graphic arts degree from Ealing Art College helped him find these small jobs. The squats were messy and cold, but they were also alive with ideas. During this time, Freddie wrote a gentle song called Lover. It was about his feelings for a straight drummer. It became a private confession recorded as a small acoustic demo. At that time, such honesty was risky, so the song stayed hidden for decades. Even then, he was learning how to pour his heart into sound. In early 1970, he tried joining a band called Sour Milk Sea. He sang with so much power that everyone in the room turned to look at him. Still, they said he was too much, too dramatic, too operatic, too flamboyant for their folk style. The rejection cut deep. It pushed him to change his look. By 1971, he dyed his hair black and grew a mustache to soften the features that made him stand out in a country where racism was rising. Sour Milk Sea did not last long anyway. It broke apart only weeks later, teaching Freddie how fragile bands could be and how careful he needed to be with people. In 1971, he tried another band called Grand Hotel, and this time things collapsed in a painful way. Freddie fell into an affair with the bassist, and the truth came out when the band found love letters. The shock burned through the group. They fired him on the spot. The heartbreak pushed Freddie into a dark place. Friends later said he took sleeping pills and had a frightening overdose scare. It never became public at the time, but it shook him. For a while, he carried that pain like a heavy shadow. Even so, he kept moving, slowly turning hurt into fuel. By late 1971, he was ready to step into a new version of himself. He changed his name legally from Farrokh Bulsara to Freddie Mercury. The name felt lighter and brighter. It matched what he wanted to become. Around this time, he also designed Queen's Crest. He used the zodiac signs of all 4 members. 2 lions for Deacon and Taylor, a crab for May, 2 fairies for himself as Virgo. The crest became a small symbol he trusted. It followed him everywhere, as if it protected his growing courage. Then came the moment that reshaped everything. In April 1970, he joined Brian May and Roger Taylor after their singer Tim Staffel left their band Smile. Freddie arrived with ideas spilling out of him. He wanted the band to be called Queen because it felt bold and full of life. At first, Brian May hesitated, thinking the name was too daring, but Freddie kept pushing. Soon, even Brian could feel the charm of it. On June 27, 1970, they played their first gig at a Cornwall Red Cross benefit. Something clicked that night. The 3 of them felt it in their bones. A new era had begun. By late 1970, they were rehearsing in a cramped flat in Liverpool with bassist Mike Gross. Freddie surprised everyone by asking for layered harmonies, like the ones in the Beatles, because he dreamed big even when the room was tiny. By 1971, he insisted they bring in John Deacon. John had an engineering mind, and Freddie believed that precision would strengthen their sound. The moment John joined, the classic lineup was complete. Their rehearsals grew intense and full of ambition. Freddie pushed hard, and that pressure shaped the band's identity. Queen's first album arrived on July 13, 1973. It had cost just £5,000 to make, and Freddie paid half from his own savings. Even with all that effort, the album didn't take off right away. Then, BBC Radio 1 played 7 Seas of Rye, and suddenly people listened. Freddie had argued fiercely with the producer for creative control. He wanted Queen to sound like no one else. That fight became a quiet legend, showing how far he was willing to go to protect the band's spirit. During the 1973 UK tours, Freddie became known for his backstage habits. He asked for 24 roses and a robe before every show. Promoters thought it was too much, but it made him feel ready. On stage, he smashed pianos during Liar, shocking crowds and building Queen's wild reputation. People started showing up not just for the music, but for the unpredictability of Freddie himself. Still, the rising fame came with a cost. Late in 1973, after a Liverpool show, Freddie collapsed from exhaustion. Doctors diagnosed severe vocal cord strain and warned him about polyps. He rested in secret. For a moment, he thought his voice might fail him, but he kept going, even when he should have stopped. Queen's momentum pushed forward, especially when Killer Queen reached the US Top 20 and proved they had something special. Just before that hit arrived, Freddie took another creative leap. He hired a harpist for £500 to help shape the sound of Killer Queen. It was unusual for a rock song, but the harp fit perfectly with the cabaret feel he imagined. He even wore vaudeville-style makeup for the album cover, clashing again with Brian May's more rugged taste. The tension was real, but the result was unforgettable. Then a scandal erupted in 1974, when a German model leaked private photos from a brief affair. Newspapers jumped on the story. Freddie denied everything in public while quietly paying £10,000 to make it disappear. The band grew uneasy, wondering how much chaos they could handle. But Freddie held his ground and focused on performing. Inside the studio, he dreamed even bigger. For Queen II, he became obsessed with a painting called The Fairy Feller's Master Stroke by Richard Dadd. It inspired him to build one of the most layered tracks Queen ever made. He pushed engineers to stack more than 160 overdubs. At one point, the studio nearly halted because the work was so demanding and expensive. Freddie did not stop. He used harpsichord, piano, and layer after layer of voice to create a strange and beautiful world inside one song. Around the same time, he poured his childhood nightmares into Ogre Battle. The screams in that track came straight from fear he had carried since boyhood. During rehearsals, he even tried fire breathing on stage, which once singed Brian May's hair. The band panicked. The song was loud and heavy and alive, but it was also hard to perform. For many years, Queen rarely played it live. His health took another hit in 1974 during the Sheer Heart Attack tour. He collapsed in New York from glandular fever mixed with kidney stones. The band had to cut their US plans short. Doctors warned him again, but Freddie pushed ahead whenever he could, even singing from his hotel bed. It was a hard time, but the album had already broken Queen internationally. Killer Queen's success proved their reach was growing far beyond the UK. Queen stepped into Rockfield Studio in Wales on August 24, 1975, with a wild idea that felt bigger than the room they were standing in. They had only a 24-track tape machine, but they wanted a sound that stretched far beyond it. So they pushed until the machine almost gave up. They spent nearly 3 weeks on Bohemian Rhapsody, singing for 12 hours a day. building more than 180 layers of vocals, with nothing but their own voices. Freddie Mercury, Brian May, and Roger Taylor kept stacking harmonies until the tapes grew so thin from bouncing that producer Roy Thomas Baker said he could almost see light shine through them. Freddie refused to use synthesizers because he wanted everything to feel natural. Engineers had to splice and reassemble pieces of tape by hand just to keep it all together. The work felt impossible, but somehow the song grew piece by piece until it became one of the most complex rock singles ever made. Still, the song carried more than technique. The opera section hid something personal. Freddie Mercury, born Farrokh Bulsara in Zanzibar, grew up in India surrounded by Zoroastrian prayers, Gujarati phrases, and Indian classical rhythms. When he shaped that opera moment, he slipped bits of those childhood sounds into the melody. Western ears never picked it up, but the influence was there. And when he played the demo for EMI executives, they stared at him like he had brought them a puzzle they could not solve. They said it was too long and too strange. Freddie slammed the demo on the table and told them he would buy it himself if he had to. Soon after, the song spent 9 weeks at #1 in the UK and became one of the best-selling singles of all time. When Queen performed it live at the Hammersmith Odeon Christmas show in 1975, Freddie walked out in a white tank top, sat at the piano, and then threw himself into the rock section with a burst of headbanging that sent the crowd into a frenzy. The rage of movement left him with whiplash night after night. He still went backstage, iced his neck, and returned the next evening with the same fire. The performance was filmed and later used in Queen Rock Montreal, capturing that mix of grace and raw power that made him unforgettable. The music video came next. Bruce Gowers shot it in November 1975 for just £4,000, finishing the whole thing in 4 hours. The bold lighting, the famous 4 on the floor pose, the leather cap, the androgynous shadows, all sparked questions in a time when the media was not ready for imagery that felt openly queer. BBC hesitated to air it on Top of the Pops. Critics accused the band of promoting homosexuality. Freddie ignored most of it in public, but in private he enjoyed the noise. Gowers later said the video changed everything about how music could be promoted. It made Queen look fearless, even if it meant standing in the middle of controversy. Right after the song became a hit, something darker happened. Freddie had just spent £25,000 on a custom Steinway piano when a session musician stole vocal stems from Queen recordings. The thief asked for £5,000 to keep quiet. Freddie paid it. He wanted no scandal and no leaks. Those stems could have revealed unfinished songs or private sessions the band never wanted released. The story stayed buried for years, whispered only by people close to the band. His life outside the studio stretched far beyond music. After a day at the races, Freddie threw a party in Munich that pulled in more than 700 guests. The stories from that night sound unreal. A dwarf walked around with cocaine on a silver tray. Police found drug traces and raided the place. Freddie escaped through a back door moments before they came in. Crystal bottles everywhere. Blacked out windows. Guests dressed in drag or in outfits that barely counted as clothing. It was wild, reckless, and freeing. Munich gave him space to be himself, without the weight of London watching him. Around this time, his relationship with Mary Austin reached its breaking point. In 1976, during dinner in Kensington, he told her he was bisexual. She moved out after that conversation, and Freddie bought her a new flat with money from his publishing company. Later, he gave her Garden Lodge, the house he loved most. Friends were shocked, but Freddie always said Mary was his only true friend. Even after their breakup, she stayed close. She became the quiet center of his life while he explored a world that kept pulling him into new desires and identities. His wild nights shaped more than his personal life. They inspired songs. In 1978, while working on the jazz album, he wrote "Don't Stop Me Now." It came from club nights in New York that ran until sunrise, filled with strangers and lovers he met with no hesitation. Brian May later admitted he envied Freddie's freedom. The lyrics about going supersonic and having a ball were not metaphors. They were diary entries hidden behind a fast piano. The song became an anthem of joy and pleasure, something Freddie understood better than most. But joy did not protect him from trouble. In 1980, he released Love Kills to cover a financial mess he kept hidden. He had invested in a hotel in Zanzibar and lost £100,000. To fix it, he sold parts of his art collection without telling the band. He let the world think everything was perfect, while his finances shook behind the curtain. The shocks kept coming. On Queen's 1981 Hot Space tour, a heckler in Milwaukee called him a slur. Freddie snapped, pulled down his pants, and mooned the crowd. Newspapers jumped on it. Fans argued about it. The band was stunned. Afterward, Freddie quietly started therapy to manage his anger. Living with a secret identity had pushed him past his limit that night. By 1983, he retreated into something he could control. He spent nearly 2 years making his solo album, Mr. Bad Guy, in Munich. He wrote all 11 songs. He sang every note. He arranged every orchestration. He hired top session musicians and worked with Reinhold Mack, but he kept Queen out of it. The synth-heavy sound shocked fans used to rock guitars. Some critics called it gimmicky, but the album showed how far he could stretch when he wanted to break free from expectations. Then came Live Aid on July 13, 1985. Queen played a 20-minute set that reached 1.9 billion viewers. It looked like a triumph. It was a triumph. But behind the scenes, Freddie was battling serious vocal strain. He injected steroids to keep his voice steady. Those injections also masked early signs of AIDS that were beginning to appear as unexplained bruises and infections. He hid everything from fans and even from most of the band. Live Aid became the moment where the brightest light covered the earliest shadow of his illness. 2 years later, he met Montserrat Caballé and created Barcelona. He trained for months to match her range. On the recording day, he arrived hungover, still buzzing from a night out. Caballé watched him slip into falsetto, improvise lyrics, and laugh through mistakes. They drank champagne and built a song that mixed opera and rock in a way no one expected. Their unlikely partnership became one of the most surprising highlights of his late career. By the spring of 1987, Freddie received the diagnosis he feared most, HIV. He kept it private. By 1989, Kaposi's sarcoma lesions appeared on his feet. He hid them with custom boots during the Magic Tour. His stamina dropped. Friends noticed but did not understand. He joked about rock star ailments to keep them calm while he held the truth inside. He kept performing even when every step hurt. That courage stunned those who learned the truth later. During the recording of The Miracle, he sometimes worked from a wheelchair. His pain grew, but he refused to stop. He rewrote the lyrics for Breakthrough overnight, filling them with quiet hints of fear and mortality. The band did not see the full picture. They saw only his humor and determination. He once said he would perform even if he weighed 200 pounds in a wheelchair. He meant it. On November 24, 1991, at 45 years old, Freddie Mercury died at Garden Lodge from bronchial pneumonia caused by AIDS. The day before, he announced his diagnosis through a fax. It was his way of protecting privacy while keeping the focus on his music. Mary Austin and his partner Jim Hutton stayed beside him. After his cremation, Mary scattered his ashes in a secret place only she knew. It was his last request. The world mourned. Then came the 1992 tribute concert at Wembley, raising £20 million for AIDS charities. But the moment was tainted when Paul Prenter, Freddie's former manager, sold private tapes from Mercury's parties. The tapes exposed scenes that shocked fans and hurt the band deeply. Yet the scandal faded, and Freddie's legacy rose again through the music, the concert, and the growing fight against AIDS. His will revealed one more surprise. Freddie left 75% of his £50 million estate to Mary Austin. When Queen sold their catalog to Sony for over £1 billion, Mary's share grew to $187.5 million by 2024. It made her one of the most financially blessed ex-partners in music history. The rest went to his family and a few close friends. Then another revelation came in 2025. A biography claimed Freddie had fathered a daughter in 1976. She was known only as B, now 48, living in Europe, working in the medical field. Her story came from journals, letters, and her own account. She received no inheritance because of privacy clauses in his will. The news sparked debate, but it painted a more complicated picture of the man behind the legend. Since 1992, the Mercury Phoenix Trust has donated over $18 million to AIDS projects in 57 countries. Garden Lodge, the home where Freddie spent his final years, was sold in 2024 for £30 million. The sale marked the end of a chapter, but his legacy kept moving through the trust, the music, and the memories he left behind.